It's a film with Oscar buzz written all over it. It was all over the Golden Globes. The Shape of Water won a Golden Globe for Best Director. Guillermo del Toro directed it, and the cast is outstanding. Sally Hawkins, Michael Shannon, who's been on this show, Octavia Spencer, and the man sitting to my right, the actor who we have loved for so many years, and The Visitor, 6 Feet Under, and also... yes, Step Brothers. Good to see you, Richard Jenkins. How are you?
Great, Rich. Good to be here.
As I mentioned, Step Brothers, for a lot of people in this audience, is their version of The Shape of Water.
That's Shakespeare. They're Shakespeare.
It was almost iambic pentameter at one point. You were talking about dinosaurs.
I think there might have been some in there, actually.
Before we get to all of that and this fantastic film and your great role in it, I want to hear this story. So you're on the set of The Shape of Water. And it's Game 7 of the World Series between the Indians and you. You're a Cubs fan all your life?
My whole life, yeah. I grew up in Illinois and been a Cubs fan my whole life. But so we're shooting a scene, the last scene of the movie, in torrential rain, with rain machines. And the sound truck has a little TV, and they've got the game live. So I'm running back and forth to the sound truck. Cubs are up. Great. All of a sudden, they're tied. It's like, what the... Come back. I can't. We have this long shot. We can't do it. The very end of the shot, the producer, Miles Dale, comes out with his phone.
Okay. I was about to say, because we're in the 21st century here.
Yeah, and he has his phone, but I have no, because it's pouring rain. We can't have stuff on us. And he's got his phone, but it's on a delay. And the ground ball to Chris Bryant makes the catch, and his back foot slips. I don't know if you remember this, but it just slipped. And I'm thinking he's going to throw it in the stand. Oh, my God, it's going to go.
Yeah.
And the boom operator is hooked up to the sound truck, which has got it live on. And right before he throws it, and I see his foot slip, the sound guy goes, "Cubs win." It was like, oh my God!
So it took some of the suspense out of it.
It was like, because I knew it was going to end awfully. It was going to be off terribly. And he was live, and I didn't have to wait for the delay.
Were you the only one on the set? So interested in
people were congratulating me like I made the play. It's like, congratulate you. I didn't hit. I didn't do anything. But
Sure.
I was the only Cubs fan around.
But I can imagine, again, at least even some people who might not be so well-versed in baseball or what have you, to know that you'd been waiting your whole damn life for this sort of thing, right?
My mother had a Cubs purse she used to carry around all the time. As my mother would watch the Cubs, and my dad would turn it off. He'd get so upset with them. But my mother always loved the Cubs. And when I was in Little League, I'm old now, so I tell this story, and I think, is it really true? Did it happen? The Cubs used to come to our banquet.
Come on. In DeKalb, Illinois?
And I was maybe 11, 12. This is back when, in the off-season, they sold cars and they sold insurance.
Yeah.
There was no money. There was not a lot. Ron Santo and Don Kessinger, and I think Jim Hickman, came to my Little League banquet. Had ties on. They all spoke, and they came around. And now this again, as I think it happened, but...
Doesn't matter. Make it up.
Do you remember Eddie Feiner, the king in his court?
Sure, of
the
course.
Softball pitcher.
Of course.
He was in town giving an exhibition, and these guys wanted to see if they could hit him. So Santo, Kessinger, and maybe Jim Hickman or Glenn Beckert, I don't know, went to the game, took their coats off with their ties on, and tried to hit Eddie Feiner.
Did they?
No. Ron Santo fell down, as I recall.
Oh, my gosh.
And Don Kessinger, they were brutal. I mean, they were they were laughing hysterically.
Richard, this sounds like The Natural, where the whammer gets off the train
exactly
and they start trying, and Roy Hobbs tries to, strikes him out on 3 pitches.
That's why I wonder if it's true. I mean, I may have dreamt it, but I really believe I saw. And I remember Ron Santo taking his jacket off, leaving his tie and white shirt on, and he kind of fell and got dirt all over his shirt.
That's amazing. The things that you'll remember.
Yeah.
Richard Jenkins here on the Rich Eisen Show. Go ahead and ask them a question you wanted to ask him. Go ahead.
All right. So you've been in like 50 movies. There's lots of movies. Cubs have never won the World Series. Did you at all consider calling out sick that day?
Yeah. Where you just tell them, I understand it's the last scene of The Shape of Water.
No, but even just like faking it.
No, because the Cubs had never won the World Series, so why would it change? So
now that's a great answer.
Yeah.
I thought you would say, "Well, I'm a professional. I'm a professional actor."
No, you expected them to blow it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why when his foot slipped, I thought, oh my God, this is it.
Honestly, I thought you were just going to say because there was all sorts of rain machines
No.
that the signal went out just as his foot slipped.
I would have never worked again, but other than that,
That's
but
That would have been worth it, though,
but
right?
These Cubs, these young guys on this Cubs team, that meant nothing to them.
Yeah.
It did. They didn't know
No.
what they didn't know.
No.
And 100 years of all this business with the GOAT and all that craziness, you know, didn't matter. And that's part of the reason why much of the country fell in love with him, too.
Yeah,
These guys.
It was amazing.
Rizzo
Amazing.
and Bryant and all of those guys. They're going to be there forever.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
seems.
it's cool.
And you were in Stealing Home as well.
was. I was.
What was that experience like for you,
It was
Richard?
fun. It was great. You know, Mark Harmon, Jodie Foster. He's a terrific guy.
Yeah.
I think it was the year he won People Magazine's Sexiest Man in the World. We went out to dinner one night, and we went to this restaurant. He goes, I can't eat here. I said, why? He said, well, it's just... I said, what? And he said, do you have a room we could go? And the guy said, yeah, we have a room in the back. So we went in the back, and I said, what's the... And 5 minutes later, there were 30 people
They come on in.
come in to look at Mark Harmon.
Because he was Mr. St. Elsewhere.
Mr. St. Elsewhere. He was the guy.
UCLA
He was the
Bruin
guy.
quarterback and whatever.
Really good guy.
But it's a neat movie. What's your favorite sports movie? Because to me, you know, sports movies that like Stealing Home always have like that center of it with a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not really about the sport.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Which one would you say that?
Gosh, you got me now.
I did.
Tell me some you like. And I'll see if
Okay. Well, Hoosiers is my number
Oh,
one.
Hoosiers is great. Gene Hackman is the greatest coach he's great. It's fantastic.
To me, I always find myself, Richard Jenkins again, The Shape of Water, here on the Rich Eisen Show. I always find myself doing what I do for a living, that the stuff in Hoosiers where you can measure the rim to the floor and the foul line to the end line, it still works. Like for this weekend with these playoff games that we're talking about right now, that Case Keenum, I just spoke to his all-pro safety, the Vikings. He's never played in a playoff game before, but it's still 3 feet
long.
for a yard. Yeah, right. It's 100 yards long.
Okay, so ask me what my favorite sports movie
What's
is.
your favorite sports movie?
Hoosiers. Okay. Can we cut out the stuff?
Very
before
good. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great,
We've
thanks.
got editing machines.
I do love Hoosiers. Anything Gene Hackman does is...
Hoosiers is great. Bull Durham is, a lot of people mention that. I would mention Rocky, but we had it confirmed by none other than Carl Weathers himself that it's a love story. It's a love movie. It's not really a sports movie.
Oh,
Rocky.
okay.
I don't know if you agree with something like that, but
Yeah, I get it.
okay.
I get it.
The Shape of Water in theaters near you right now. When you take on a role with a script like this, where it's essentially a love story between a woman and a sea creature beast, and you play a character who is involved in this because you're the next door neighbor who's equally as lonely as the young lady. When you read this sort of stuff, what do you think when you get a script like this, Richard?
I wanted to do it immediately. This is what you do. This is how you know you love it. Guillermo sent me an email and said, I'd never met him. And he said, I want you to play Giles. I hope you love it as much as I do. And I read it, and I sent him an email back the next day and said, I think I do. But when you know you love it, when you're reading this character and you're turning the page and you're saying, please don't die. Please don't die. Because it's
Right.
you read something and it speaks to you or it doesn't. It's about as simple as that. There's no other reason. You just read and you go, I think I could find something in there that, or sometimes you read it and you go, there's so many guys that could do this better than me, or this doesn't speak to me. And I knew immediately when I read that.
That you had to do it. Now, when you're shooting the scenes with the creature, I don't know what we could call it, was there really somebody in a suit like that?
Yeah,
or?
Doug Jones in a rubber suit. Basically, he's entombed. It's like being buried alive, except you can move around. You are covered. Everything is covered except your eyes and your nose and your mouth. You're entombed in this.
Right.
And in fact, one of the extras that did a stunt double thing for him, they put him in a suit, and I think it was a dancer. I'm not sure who it was, but he got so claustrophobic he threw up in the suit.
Oh my God!
It's a whole, you got to be a certain kind of dude to do this.
I bet.
And he's in it for 14, 15 hours a day.
Right, I know, and you just met him over there, Mike Del Tufo. He's in a Mike Del Tufo suit every day. We put him and we zip him up in that skin.
He's
right
entombed.
There. He's right there
Yeah,
That's what we call him every single day, and I appreciate you doing that every day for
Thank
the show.
you,
Mike.
Rich.
Really
I do
appreciate
for
that.
you.
It's very moving.
When
Brock.
you got a good story from the set of Step Brothers, Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly. Was there anything in particular about that film that?
Well, my first wasn't my first day, but it was close. I didn't know Adam McKay, the director, that well.
Sure.
And he's a wonderful. So we're shooting a scene, and a cell phone goes off, and I hear Adam say, "Whose cell phone is that?" And he starts screaming, "I told you never, ever to let your cell phones onto the set." And he's screaming. I'm going, "Oh my God, this is going to be a long shoot." And he comes into the room. "Who was it? Who was it?" Nobody says anything. He turns around and he goes, "Never, ever happen again. I'll call you back." It was his cell phone.
So that's how you were
That's how I-
introduced to
that's how
what
I
this shoot was going to be.
And, it was the dinosaur speech that you talked about. I was sitting there at the Catalina Wine Mixer. And Adam McKay said to me, "Go tell Will and John that you wanted to be a dinosaur when you were young." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, just go tell them you want." I said, "Adam, what the hell are you talking about?"
So it was not scripted?
No,
You just came up?
No.
Okay. All
So
right.
he said, "Go tell them." So I went over and I started talking, and both of them kept saying to me, "That's just not possible, Dad. What are you talking about?" and I came back and I went, "Oh, that won't be in the movie." And Adam said, "Oh, yes, it will." Oh, man. I mean, the two of them, Will and John, are so quick. You can't keep up.
Yeah.
They're just so quick.
I mean, it's great. Which film? You've been in a whole genre of them, from The Witches of Eastwick. I've got a whole bunch here. Silverado, Sea of Love, Jack Reacher. Which genre do you enjoy the most?
The
Richard?
ones that the checks cash. My favorite genre. No, I like the fact is I've been lucky enough to do all different kinds of films.
And 6 Feet Under as well.
6 Feet Under.
You were terrific in that.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. That was one of those things where I was just supposed to do the pilot, and then Alan Ball said, "We'd like to have you come back," because he said, "It occurs to me that once your father dies, you don't stop thinking about him." So I said, "Sure." So I came and went. It was great. 5 years.
Unbelievable. And do you have a bucket list director that you'd want to work with that you haven't?
I
in your
don't
career?
really think that way,
Okay.
I don't have any parts I want to play, or I just kind of one of the things I love about being an actor is you never know what's around the corner. Like The Shape of Water, I get an email one day.
Boom.
Yeah, and it's like, there it is. And now here we are with it. It doesn't happen very often. I don't even know how a movie gets made. When you see how many people make decisions about things and how much money it takes, and you wonder how anything ever gets done. But once in a while, you hit a really good one.
And this story reminds me, I got to check my spam folder a lot more often than I do.
You do. You never know, man. Well, I don't think mine was in spam.
Okay.
But,
Well, at Del Toro or whatever it might be, at whackedoutideas.com.
I know.
I don't know how his mind works.
It's
Holy
like nobody else's.
cow.
Yeah, and he's hysterically funny.
Is he really?
Oh God, he's
He's like Bill Belichick in a way, where
He's
you think that maybe you
hysterically
never
funny.
know it could be that funny. Okay.
He said to me, but the first day I worked with him, we did a scene, and I said, "I'm not happy, Guillermo. I want to change it up." He said, "Okay, fine." So I did it a different way, and I said, "So do you want to maybe shoot it again to cover it in case this doesn't work?" And that he's, "Richard, we are not that kind of men. We make a decision, we stick with it." About 10 minutes later, he goes, "I think we'll shoot it again."
Boy, that would have been great if you had just told the story. It's a great story if you're like, he came up to you and said, "Okay, go up to Michael Shannon and say you always wanted to be a dinosaur.
right. Michael.
Yeah.
Oh man, Michael Shannon.
Oh, yeah. He's great. You're great in this. It's a super movie. People should go see it. Thank you for coming in here, Richard.
My pleasure.
You bet.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.